So let's begin this, you and I, like detectives, to figure out what's going on here, because I think a lot of people, including conservatives, have this upside down. New York Times, Rosenstein suggested he secretly record Trump and discuss 25th Amendment by Adam Goldman and Michael Schmidt. I'm no fan of either of them. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, suggested last year that he secretly record President Trump in the White House to expose the chaos consuming the administration, and he discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office for being unfit. Now, let me tell you what I hear. That sentence is inaccurate. Now, I don't know this. I wasn't in the meeting. I have not seen any memos. But it's my understanding that the 25th Amendment was not raised by Rosenstein, and that this issue of taping secretly the President of the United States was a response, a sarcastic response to McCabe. That Deputy FBI Director McCabe had such a hate-on for Trump, he was demanding they open a broad investigation of President Trump. Now, more on this in a minute. Mr. Rosenstein made these suggestions in the spring of 2017 when Mr. Trump's firing of James Comey as FBI director plunged the White House into turmoil. This is the New York Times. These are so-called reporters. Over the ensuing days, the president divulged classified intelligence to Russians in the Oval Office, and revelations emerged that Mr. Trump had asked Mr. Comey to pledge loyalty and end an investigation into a senior aide. This is left-wing kook propaganda. This paragraph should be rejected and dismissed by all serious Americans. But it goes on. Mr. Rosenstein was just 2 weeks into his job. He had begun overseeing the Russia investigation and played a key role in the president's dismissal of Mr. Comey by writing a memo critical of his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But Mr. Rosenstein was caught off guard when Mr. Trump cited the memo in the firing, and he began telling people he feared he had been used. I don't doubt that for a second. But let's continue. Mr. Rosenstein made the remarks about secretly recording Mr. Trump and about the 25th Amendment. Again, that is at issue. In meetings and conversations with other Justice Department and FBI officials, there were apparently 7 individuals in this meeting, including McCabe, Lisa Page, and Rosenstein. And in Lisa Page's notes, just so you know, there's no reference to the 25th Amendment. None. I'll explain. Several people described the episodes insisting on anonymity to discuss internal deliberations, and this is, of course, the way the media worked today. The people were briefed either on the events themselves, so they were briefed on the events. They weren't firsthand. Or on memos written by FBI officials, including Andrew G. McCabe, then the acting bureau director, that documented Mr. Rosenstein's actions and comments. It's widely understood that this was leaked by the McCabe camp, and it's the McCabe memo. Or was leaked by the special counsel's office, as they have the McCabe memo. And Mr. Weisberg, Andrew Weisberg, the deputy to Mr. Mueller, is a rabid leaker. Rabid leaker. Complete sleazeball. None of Mr. Rosenstein's proposals apparently came to fruition. Well, they didn't come to fruition because he didn't intend them to come to fruition. I'm no special pleader for Rosenstein. You fully know that. I was the first, or among the first, to call this man out, but we're trying to figure out what's taking place here. And a lot of conservatives are falling off the cliff stupidly. Just stay with me. It is now clear how determined he was, Rosenstein, about seeing them through. It's not clear. Though he did tell Mr. McCabe that he might be able to persuade Attorney General Jeff Sessions and John F. Kelly, then the Secretary of Homeland Security, and now the White House Chief of Staff, to mount an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment. The Justice Department, via Mr. Rosenstein, denies this 25th Amendment stuff completely. The extreme suggestions show how Mr. Rosenstein's, now listen to this, state of mind in the disorienting days that followed Mr. Comey's dismissal, sitting in on Mr. Trump's interviews with prospective FBI directors and facing attacks for his role in Comey's firing. Mr. Rosenstein had an up-close view of the tumult. Mr. Rosenstein appeared conflicted, regretful, and emotional, according to people who spoke with him at the time. Isn't that interesting? So it's an attack on Rosenstein. Out of the New York Times. Now, why would they do this? Use your detective's hat. Here we go. Mr. Rosenstein disputed this account. The New York Times' story is inaccurate and factually incorrect, he said in a statement. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the President, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment. Justice Department spokesman also provided a statement from a person who was present when Mr. Rosenstein proposed wearing a wire. The person, who would not be named, acknowledged the remark but said Mr. Rosenstein made it sarcastically. But according to others who described his comments, Mr. Rosenstein not only confirmed that he was serious about the idea, but also followed up by suggesting that FBI officials who were interviewing to be the Bureau's director could be secretly recording Mr. Trump. Mr. McCabe, who was later fired from the FBI, declined to comment. Now that is precious, but we'll go on. His memos have been turned over to the special counsel investigating whether Trump associates conspired with Russia's election interference. That's Mueller, according to a lawyer for Mr. McCabe. Said of those memos remained at the FBI at the time of his departure. In late January 2018, the lawyer Michael Bromwich said of his client, he has no knowledge of how any member of the media obtained those memos. Okay, so this was either leaked by McCabe and his people or by Mueller and his people, like Weisberg. Now, what's going on here? Immediately, conservative commentators, TV, radio, have said Mr. Rosenstein must be fired by the President of the United States immediately. Certainly entered my mind. Did it enter your mind? He must be fired immediately. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why was this leaked? Why was this leaked now? Think it through. Why was this leaked? Why was this leaked now? In the meeting, the aggressor demanding a full-fledged criminal investigation against the President of the United States was not Rosenstein. It was McCabe. And anonymous sources tell me that it was McCabe whose temperature was rising in the meeting, who was insistent, the deputy FBI director. It was McCabe, after Comey was fired, who was demanding a full-fledged criminal investigation. And it was Rosenstein, in response, who sarcastically said, yeah, okay, I'll wear a wire. Next time I'm with the President, we'll interview him and so forth. And yet, they deny the 25th Amendment ever came up. So after the meeting, McCabe writes memos to himself as his former boss, the unethical, dishonest James Comey did. Self-serving memos. He brings up the 25th Amendment. He is furious that the President of the United States fired his friend and boss, Comey. Turns out they're not so friendly right now for different reasons. Now, why is this going on? And there's another fact that's quite interesting that I'll get to in a moment. So why is this going on? I'll tell you one of the reasons I think it's going on is because McCabe and the others want the President now to fire Rosenstein. Not after the election, but now. And they think we are so stupid, we conservatives, that we will be pressing the President immediately based on McCabe's leaks, or the leaks of his self-serving memo to the disgusting New York Times, they think we're going to take the bait. They think we're going to bite the hook and demand that the president immediately fire Rosenstein. After all, look what the New York Times says, which of course can't be trusted. Look what the McCabe memo says, which of course can't be trusted. So the president must fire Rosenstein immediately, you see. Immediately, especially before the primary, the midterm elections, which would ensure that you would elect 70 more Democrats and ensure the president's impeachment. This is how conniving these people are. Why didn't they leak this 5 months ago? Why didn't they leak this 10 months ago? They leaked it now, 45 days before the midterm elections. Because they know the President of the United States may well fire Sessions. He may well fire Rosenstein. He may well fire others. Hillary Clinton's even mentioned it. She's not particularly bright. But they want the president to fire Rosenstein now. To blow up the entire Kavanaugh hearings. To have Republicans running for the hills. Create complete chaos for the Republicans and among the Republicans in the midterm elections, even worse that currently exist. That's what's going on here. But I want to mention something else that isn't even on anybody else's radar. This also tells me why Rod Rosenstein appointed a special counsel. He should never have appointed a special counsel. He violated his own department rules. There was no criminal predicate, but he was being pressed by the deputy director of the FBI. Investigate, criminal, investigate, criminal, investigate, criminal. And Rosenstein, being the coward that he is, he just decided, look, I don't want my fingerprints all over this stuff. I got the deputy director of the FBI pounding the hell out of me that there's a criminal pretext here. I don't know what it is. I got Schumer and the Democrats demanding that I appoint a special counsel. I've only been here a few weeks. You know what? I'll appoint a special counsel. I'll wash my hands. And that's what he did. And that's what he did. Now we know why he did it. This guy McCabe appears to have been at the middle of everything. With Stroke, with Page, with Comey, and with Rosenstein. I'll be right back.